Welcome to today's folk tales. I'm Wang Lu. A comely serving wench, much favored by the master of a great house in Jiannan, was entrusted with the sole responsibility of watering and feeding her master's exceptionally intelligent Mynah Bird. One day, the bird burst out, "You'll catch a good husband, my dear, by feeding me." She poked it bashfully with her fan, and from then on she became so accustomed to it answering her with a quip or a taunt that she thought no more of it. But one day she was bathing in her room when she heard the bird shout, "You've a fine figure. If I were a man, I'd swoon at the sight." Outraged, she went and poked the bird. It promptly escaped the open cage and flapped away. Fearing her master's anger, she went to him and tearfully exclaimed, "I never thought the other maids would go so far as to let the bird out, sir, while I was having a bath. It's my own fault, and I deserve to die." Her master, who had always had a soft spot for her, didn't blame her. 10 days later, she received orders from her mistress to attend Lady Liang, a fellow townswoman. Lady Liang had a son named Xu, who was reading in his study that day. Suddenly, a bird flew in and said to him, "I've just the wife for you. Why don't you come and see?" The astonished Xu followed the bird, and just as they passed through the courtyard gate, he saw a ravishing damsel of about 16 years. Xu followed behind her and saw that she entered the parlor of his home. He realized that she was one of the servants at the great house. Returning to her room later that day, the girl spied the mynah. It shrieked, "You won't abuse me again, will you? Not when I have dashed to and fro to make you a good match." Then it recounted everything in detail and asked, "Well, do you want him or not?" The bashful girl made no reply. She had indeed been taken with Xu's manner, but she was ashamed at the thought of becoming a rich man's plaything. The bird stopped by again the next day. "My master is too fond of me to throw me away for scant return," she told it. "And besides, a fine young gentleman like Mr. Liang will surely scorn a serving wench as a wife." Hearing this, the bird flew away, but shortly he returned with a paper on which a poem swearing eternal devotion was written in Liang Xu's hand. The girl happily dispatched the bird with a reply. When Xu saw the bird, he asked if it carried any word from his sweetheart. The bird told him of the girl's tender concern. Xu, thrilled, dashed off a couple of lines expressing his love. The bird took it in his beak and flew straight off. But then, days passed with no further sign of the bird, and there was a lull in Xu's news of her. Then word came that a serving wench had died at the great house. Confirming it was indeed his true love, Xu was beside himself. How had it happened? The answer was carried to him by the mynah as he slept. Xu dreamed that while carrying out its mission, the bird had been killed by a youth. Meanwhile, the maids in the big house spoke ill of the girl before the master. He grew very angry and had her sealed in a coffin and buried alive in the countryside. Xu was inconsolable at the loss of his beloved, but from the bird's message to him in his dream, he believed that he still might save her. He sent servants to make inquiries. He recalled that there was a nearby village called Bei Pu, which seemed to tally with cryptic words spoken in his dream. He hastened to the village and found a new grave. That night, he broke the coffin open and found the girl inside. Miraculously, she was still breathing. Xu carried her on his back to a nearby nunnery. A month passed, and the girl was once again as lovely as she had ever been. Xu asked the nun to be his matchmaker, telling her that the girl was the daughter of a poor family. For the rest of his life, Xu, in memory of the loyal bird, purchased and released every mynah that he found in captivity, much to everyone's astonishment. With that, we conclude this edition of Folk Tales. I'm Wang Lu. Bye for now.